Hello and welcome to the Post Café. My name is Corey Tedrow. The Post Café is a place where we get to sit down with various members of the global post-production community and talk with them about what they do and how they do it, and give them a chance to share their experience and insight into the ever-evolving world of post-production. This episode is entitled, Will We Ever Go Back to Normal, and Do We Want to? And we're joined by Jay Cave. He is the Technical Operations Director at Envy Post in London. Welcome, Jay, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So, Jay, can you tell us a little bit about what you do at Envy?
I'm the Technical Operations Director at Envy, so I deal with everything from tenders to quotes to workflow to infrastructure and making things work and making everyone happy.
That's not an easy job.
It's not, is it?
No. So what did you have to do when all of a sudden, you have 6 locations, right?
Yeah, we have 6 buildings, so we've got over 200 suites in London across 6 buildings, and we do everything from light entertainment to feature documentaries, scripted, commercials, all across those 6 buildings. So yeah, it's a big operation day to day.
And in a moment's notice, you had to all of a sudden go remote.
Yeah, back in March, like everyone, we had to move the entire facility remotely in about a week or 2. So that was all of editorial, all of finishing post, which worked quite well. I mean, we did it. Everyone met their deadlines. People were super flexible because I think they were just really appreciative that there were solutions and that something could happen. But yeah, it was quite a busy time.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you made that happen?
Yeah, so I mean, initially, like everyone, we kind of just threw a lot of resources at it and started using what we could use quite quickly. But it was quite apparent in the 2 months that sort of preceded the start of lockdown in the UK that remote working wasn't really going away. And there were certainly parts of this that were going to stay for the long term. So we started developing our own Envy remote platform, which we started last May and we launched in November just gone. So there's a lot of work and a lot of investment there. And the idea of it was to bring production, editing on site and editing remotely together in one place across the web and some mobile apps that are available on the Apple and the Android store. And it was important for us because we saw there was an issue anyway. Previous to COVID, you've got editors and producers working in a room by themselves, and you've got people in production company office somewhere else. And how are they involved in the conversation? Sometimes they're not necessarily. But certainly when you add editors and producers wanting to work in distributed ways, that becomes quite important. So the idea of the platform is to not only make accessing your Avid really super easy from setup to seeing a list of all your Avids and your projects and clicking on them, but you can obviously invite your producer to look at your screens in real time and fully in sync. But on top of that, we developed a whole suite of collaboration tools that make communication a lot easier, because we understand creative communication, it's easier in person. It's always going to be easier in person. But if there are things that we can do to make that distributed communication a bit easier, then we will.
So obviously supporting teams that are remote and spread out is more complicated. Can you talk about some of the things that you encountered that you didn't expect as you went through that process?
It's not as simple as everyone working remotely or everyone working locally. And I think often in technology, we try to sort of pigeon people in. Are you working the new way or are you working the old way? And actually, a lot of people want to work both. And that's part of the challenge, really. That true hybrid model was a challenge for us. We ended up having to build basically a data center at Envy because Envy becoming the cloud was really the only solution to that. We had clients and continue to have clients that not only want to work locally or remotely, but they want to work locally in the facility some days of the week and remotely on other days of the week. And that true flexibility is really at the core of this and why hybrid for us is so popular. So I think that the challenges around becoming a data center and getting additional power and networking and aircon and redundancy that we never had before and sort of beefing that up was a big challenge. But then also building all these collaboration tools on top to try and solve communication, because when you're in a hybrid world, you have a project where some editors and some suites are working locally, others are remotely. You've all got to gel together and communicate together. So that's why we added features like storyboards. So we kind of replicated the wall of sticky notes that you have in your room to describe an episode structure, and made that virtual and added in features like changing the color and adding ratings and adding images and things that you would never even have locally with sticky notes, and now
That's
you can do
awesome.
that remotely too. And that works across web and mobile, and that's really cool. We added a task management suite, so you can track task progress for different people, and they get notifications on their phone, and someone in the office can, or at home in their office, can oversee that whole process of where the project is. We work with Frame.io to add a whole section of review and approval, so you can see all of your review and approvals in one place, and then download those comments and import them into Media Composer, which is a really nice little workflow. All of that on top of live chat to individual teams, calendars for keeping track of your project, notes for communicating about different attachments and files going in and out of distributed stores at Envy, and making all of that seamless. I think that communication piece and building these services on top of what at its core is remote edit and accessing Avids remotely, but building out that processing, adding all this additional functionality to make things easier, that was really the key for us of making this successful. There's lots of challenges. I mean, the other challenges really were around, it isn't just a case of someone working locally or remotely even, because you have an editor on site and you might have a producer at home working with them, or your producer on site and the editor at home. So we've also made changes locally in the suites, technical and networking changes to make that possible, that wasn't necessarily before. So yeah, that total flexibility is now at the forefront of our mind, really.
I was going to ask you, why is this worth doing? Should we go back to the way it was? And I think you've already answered that there's lots of reasons why it's worth doing.
Yeah, it's not going away, is it?
Definitely sounds like it's made your life harder. Your job is definitely harder now.
Last year's definitely been pretty hard. A lot of hours have gone in. The world has changed. Ultimately, the world has changed, and nothing's going back to the way it was completely. The jack's out of the box. We've been everyone's tried flexible working and working from home, and it works. Like, the secret's out. Now we need to figure out how that fits in with the way people want to work going forward. So I think that flexibility is really key for people. We interviewed actually all of the editors that worked with us over the last year, and we asked them, in a post-COVID world of bunny rabbits and holidays, how do you want to work? Do you want to work locally in the facility all week? Do you want to work at home all week? Or do you want to work some sort of mixture of the two? And over 70% want a mixture of the two. Mm-hmm. So it's not going away, because I think people understand creative communication is easier on site, and why can't they have both? Right. I think that's kind of the key. You don't have to choose. You can be on site for that exec viewing. You can be on site for that, putting that story together, when looking someone in the eye is actually really important for gauging what your ideas are like, and is this going to work? But then you can be at home on a Thursday and Friday when you're just getting through that work, and maybe you can take your kids to school on a Friday, and maybe that makes you a bit happier. There are things that people are going to start pushing for. And I think every company in the world now needs a flexible working policy.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a question. If you're interviewing someone, you're going to get asked, what's your flexible working policy? And you're going to need an answer. I think it's key, not just for post-production or broadcast, but every industry in the world is going to need an answer to that.
As things continue to evolve, is there anything in particular that you're excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I've been really excited about the feedback that we've got. We spent a long time building a whole platform of services, and it's worked out really well. So I think the feedback's been really exciting. I think being able to offer clients total flexibility is really important for us. We want to say yes to people. We don't want to say no. And every project is different. So if we have a project that's now 8 suites big, chances are 2 of those suites are at home all the time, 2 of the suites are in a facility all the time, and the other 4 are some mixture of half and half. And projects and clients, they don't know at the beginning when they're quoting how they want to work. It's only when they get all the staff on board and they talk to them, and then they figure it out. So being able to say yes to all of that's really important. But I think it's also opened up things for clients too. So clients can now recruit in a different way. I think if you had a project and you were maybe commissioned late, you were probably choosing staff mostly on location, like who's still around London that can maybe do this. They're not our first choice, but we'll have them anyway. But now you can just pick on talent. If the best person you want lives in Manchester, use them. If the best person you want is in Bristol, use them. I mean, we've had people remoting in from Ireland, Spain, Netherlands, and Turkey, all working together with people locally at Envy and people outside of London doing different things all at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think there's new horizons there, I think, for talent too.
So you think that even though it's made your job a lot harder, you don't want to go back to the way it was?
I don't think we can.
You don't have a choice.
There's probably lots of people that want to go back to the way it was, because wasn't life simple? And the conversations I've had about networking over the last year are more conversations I've ever had about networking previous to that, or ever want to have. So no, we have to embrace it. I mean, this is it. This is part of sort of our investment in this going forward. You've either got to be leading it, or you're just going to be left behind, because the train's left the station. It's already out there. So no, the world has changed, but it's not a one or the other solution. I think hybrid is definitely the future.
Jay, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Really appreciate you taking the time.
No problem. Thanks.
And that is it for this episode of the Post Cafe. Thank you very much for joining us. If you like what you see, please hit subscribe and be safe out there. Bye-bye.